morning everyone, it is Monday the 30th of December 2024. We are on the way down to Summernats 37. We're just heading towards Injune at the moment, sort of central Queensland. Still a couple of days drive, so we'll sort of head down towards Gilgandra or Dubbo or something today, I think, is the aim. Yeah, it's been a pretty busy 3 or 4 months really, leading up to this Summernats. We haven't been down there with a car since Summernats 25, so we actually, 4 of us built this car. Luke, Cody and Kev and myself built this car for debut at Summernats 25, and we did that and we took it, and then I pretty much left town not long after that from down on the south coast where I was from in New South Wales, and we all sort of went out separate ways, all the mates. So yeah, we're pretty keen to head back down there. We've got Cody and Luke will be there. We've booked an Airbnb, so we're all going to be, us 3 lads will be staying together. I think Kev will be sitting this one out. He's probably got some farm duties carrying on up in Emerald there. But yeah, no, it should be a really good event, we're hoping. Pretty nervous looking at the lineup. We won a wildcard ticket at Rocky Nuts at the start of the year to get into the show here at Summernats, and yeah, we've got, field was I think 30 cars initially when we were first saw the wildcard entry list, and I had a look the other night, they've re-released it. A few names changed around and they've dropped it down to 27, but there is a few new faces in there. But yeah, like some proper big heavy hitting cars. You see Smoke, Steve Loader. There's a number of cars that are pretty full on in there. So, you know, we've probably got the most budget, if you want to call it that, setup. Still put a lot of dollars into it, but the engine's very basic package. We're not running, obviously, blown or methanol, and we're not running a Tubbs car. Some of the things we have done in the last few years to make it more competitive, hopefully, is 3:1:5 diff ratio. In the last 12 months, we've done a lot of work in the background trying to set up. We've gone to a 4500 plus RPM stall converter, so that hasn't done a lot of work. It's sort of only just been put in the last 6 months of that. And yeah, after the last burnout comp in Emerald in August, I've pretty much rebuilt a lot of the systems in the car, so it's got a complete new fuel system going up from dash 8 and dash 6 return line fuel line set up to dash 10s, hard line front to back. We've gone up a size in the oil cooler for the trans, so a bigger oil cooler with a thermo fan activated on a switch automatically, so it cuts in and out. And yeah, the oil line size for it has gone up from 3/8 dash 6 to 1/2 inch, so dash 8. So yeah, that's got all PTFE line front to back as well. Full new exhaust system, custom made headers. Look, we can't really fit a 4:1 extractor in very easily, but we upgraded from 1 5/8 primaries to 1 3/4, and this setup before was pretty wild that I built. It was a 4:1 on the left side and a tri-wire on the right. We've managed to run a lot more decent collector setup and manifold. So basically the extractor, or the header, is cut in the center, and then there's a V-band on the join, so I'll have to split the pipes in half, drop the K-frame and the steering to get the actual header in and out, because it's so tightly and such a small chassis. We've got the starter motor on that side, we've got a rod shop starter in there to try and keep everything compact, and it's fully adjustable. We're trying to keep it out of the way as much as we can, but yeah, it's still so tight in there. It's about the best I can do at the moment anyway. It's a lot better than what it was, I think. Yeah, there's been a fair few things. We did some testing a month ago, roughly, at the Emerald pad there with the club, and for the first time ever, I have had cam sensor issues in the past, but the car was cutting out. Pulled back into the pits, threw the scan tool on. The laptop, we're running MSD ignition still, which is pretty primitive technology, but we had a crank angle sensor fault, so it's never done that before, and it was basically cutting out when the car got right up to temp, when it got pretty hot in a burnout. First burnout was alright, and then the second and third, and I think fourth, we did 4 sort of test hits, and yeah, the last 3, once it got some heat in it was cutting out. It was running a Delphi sensor, which should be good quality, but it had done a lot of heat cycles, and as you know, burnout engines get pretty hot. We are running E85, but it's not uncommon to see well over 110 degrees in that cooling circuit, so you can imagine the heat through the entire engine. Still running just an alloy block, pretty standard sort of setup, like I said before. But yeah, so hopefully to remedy that issue, we have done cam and new crank sensors in OEM GM, made in China, of course, brand, but they're genuine GM sensors, so we're hoping that that's going to solve our issues. You know, it's not ideal to just throw parts at shit, but it's pretty hard to replicate an issue when it's only doing it under peak temperatures and without going out and doing, you know, 2 or 3 burnouts. It's very hard to test it, so I'm hopeful that there's no issues with the tone wheel walking on the crankshaft. I think it's unlikely, seeing it's an issue that sort of happens when it heats up, and then when it cools down it's fine again. So yeah, we changed the sensors. I ended up getting another harness, which was the wrong one, and then I ordered another one, and it came, and I put that on, so it's got a new cam crank harness as well. I've rerouted the harness away from any from the alternator charge cable, which I was a bit worried was causing some interference, possibly. I don't know, sort of drawing at straws, but I definitely don't want it to happen again on a pad with 80,000 people watching, or 40 or whatever it is. Yeah. Anyway, I'll check back in a bit later on, but that's the update for now. I'll see you later. Just thought I'd add a bit more info in with that exhaust. Yeah, this is the first time we've run the exhaust under the car, so there's a few benefits and reasons why we initially never ran the car with an exhaust underneath. We ran the side pipes for the last lot of years, and yeah, so basically heat management and clearance was probably the biggest thing. There didn't really seem to be anywhere to put the exhaust. Seeing that we run a radiator in the boot, we've got coolant pipes and transmission lines and lots of stuff going on under the car. custom extractors, headers, as we spoke about before. But yeah, we've gone from that 1 3/4 into twin 2-inch, I think it is, and then tri-wires, and then they go step into a 3-inch collector. So then we're running twin 3-inch system back into a X pipe, just an airflow stainless X pipe. The rest of it's mould steel, the whole system. And we're running a couple of hot dogs at the back, and we've actually continued this exhaust all the way out the back of the car under the diff. Thought we'd try and avoid tyre fires, and possibly if we want to go methanol at some point. Yeah, just tyre fires is probably the main concern. Also grass and dust under the car. Where I live, there's a fair bit of dust around the emerald burnout pad, quite dusty. Can be a bit of a pain running stuff dumped to the diff. You do throw a lot of dust and dirt and grass crap around. So that's a concern, especially too, we're running the ducting for the radiator is under the spoiler at the back for the intake, and it does draw through the boot in places, obviously wherever it can, to pull air for the radiator and the transcooler, mainly the radiator, and then it dumps back out under the car, the excess heated air once the thermo fans pull it out of there. So yeah, that's something to think about. Yeah, another thing we'll talk about quickly is the trailer. So shortly after Rocky Nuts this year, I headed down south and was on some long service leave and headed back to Narooma, back home, and yeah, I had a good think about what I wanted to do and where I was headed with everything with the cars, and sort of I had a look on the way down at Noosa at All-Star Metal Fab trailers, something I'd been toying with the idea about buying for quite a while. Sort of went back and forth about buying a tilted trailer or just a decent open deck trailer. Like I had one that was quite good, but it was only rated to 2 tons, so I sort of got rid of that. And then the prices of everything went up, and sort of ummed and ahed, but these trailers still seem pretty affordable, these enclosed trailers, for the amount of benefit you get, obviously. Towing the old man Skyline down to Narooma, at that time, that was sort of the final straw in going enclosed trailer, you know, getting tree sap and shit on the car and just being worried about it, people can see it, theft, and you know, not that it's always an issue or anything, but yeah, it's good to have. It's almost an extra shed. It's always somewhere to leave all your gear in there. You can have it set up as a race trailer. I've got quite a lot of gear in there already, but I would like to do some workshop benches and stuff. We've just sort of left it fairly open. I didn't want to. The more boxes you tick and all that stuff, obviously, the more the price adds up. So we went fairly basic setup in this build that I ordered. Ended up getting it in November as promised, so they did really well. Those was at All-Star Metal Fab in Noosa to get it all out exactly when they said they were going to, probably a bit earlier. Yeah, ended up, it's a standard one of their trailers. I think it's a 6-metre trailer with a 1-metre nose. Ended up getting a beaver tail set up one, and a ramp extension so we can put the lowered cars in internally. So they run a winch for the rear end to load and like open and close the tailgate. So we had to wire the winch up, ended up putting a battery in the front and running power to that winch and power to a few other things. We've set up a winch in the front too. These trailers come with a bracket for a front winch, so we've got a little ATV winch in there, 5,000 pound, 15 metre cable that I ended up finding on eBay. Also put some LED strip lighting in, where I've put a power socket on the side of the trailer to run 240 in, so you're not running leads in and out and trying to muck around with doors. Everything can be locked and it, you know, sort of set up like a caravan in that way that'll just power in and we can run a charger or, you know, phone chargers. Don't want to go anything extreme, but yeah, it's just nice to have that bulkhead on the outside. Yeah, so we're 70 k's out of Injune at the moment. It's 8:30 in the morning nearly, and on the way we're going up the pretty steep range here. Little Lilacs working hard. Pretty keen to see the boys down at Nats. We've got Sean and Blake. We're down there too with the Slammer Rock. So they won their class at Rocky Nuts and got a wildcard ticket as well. So obviously both Emerald cars. So yeah, pretty keen to catch up with those guys and we can both see how we go together. I'll quickly go over the front end in the car. Another big change I made in the last few months. We've gone away from the factory sway bar, caster bar set up in the Mark II Escort 1.6 litre factory setup it's always run, and we've moved into a setup with a separate cast rod and sway bar system. So we had noticed, and from people viewing the car as well, that the wheels have moved around quite a lot. And we also had a fair bit of rubbing from the tyres, scrubbing on the front and back of the guard, which obviously large tyre compared to standard, and it's wider and more offset, so you know you're going to expect that if we're pushing it hard, and it's not designed for that. But we were worried about how much the tyre was moving back and forward, and we're trying to isolate that. Yeah, it has got coilovers in front of it as well. But yeah, so we've put this bar set up in, and we haven't done a lot of testing, but hopefully it's going to make a fair difference. Also cut out the front of the guards in the car, so we've run a bit more caster and a bit more camber in it. Probably not a heap more camber, to be honest, probably similar. Probably 1.5 degrees neg is about all I could get out of it with the tow rods. We were sort of out of thread in the rack ends, so I couldn't get it much more camber in it, but yeah, it should have a bit more caster in it. The wheels are a bit further forward, so it shouldn't rub on the back now or the front. Yeah, like I said, I cut the front guards out. I've done the left-hand front guard, remanufactured a lip and welded a lip in there to make it look like a factory guard. I haven't done the right side. I thought we'll try it, run it at Summernats, see if there's any rubbing, see if we're happy with it, and then I'll do the driver's side. Sort of, yeah, ran out of a bit of motivation too, and it's a bit hard working around the shed and painting and welding everywhere with cars everywhere, but anyway, we'll give it a go. Here we are at Roma, steeled up through 80 litres in the big girl. Going pretty good so far. Had to move the straps around a bit. It's a bit narrow, this car, for the track, some of the other stuff we're running, so yeah, that's where it's staying for now.